At my wife's book launch, she smiled as she announced, "This story is based on my real-life affair." Gasps filled the room. She thought she had the final word until I stepped forward. "Since we're telling the truth, let's reveal everything." Moments later, her career and her lies began to crumble. The evening was draped in an air of celebration, yet beneath it all, something felt hollow. I stood in the middle of an opulent bookstore, the shelves lined with glossy copies of my wife's latest novel, her so-called magnum opus. The scent of fresh ink mixed with the aroma of expensive champagne as guests murmured in anticipation, waiting for the celebrated author to take the stage. I should have been proud. After all, I had supported her career from the very beginning, sacrificed my time, my dreams, my money, all so she could become the literary star she always wanted to be. And tonight, she had finally made it. The crowd, the flashing cameras, the murmurs of admiration, it was everything she had ever desired. Yet something gnawed at me. I watched my wife, Lauren, move effortlessly through the crowd, her laughter light and practiced, her hand resting delicately on the arm of her publisher, a man who had always been just a little too interested in her work, and I suspected in her. Her success should have been our success. Instead, it felt like a private joke she was laughing at, one I hadn't been let in on. And then she took the stage. "First of all," Lauren began, her voice smooth and confident, "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. This book is deeply personal to me." A polite round of applause. She smiled. Then she delivered the first blow. "You see, The Other Side of Love isn't just fiction. It's based on my real-life affair." Silence. A sharp, stunned silence that sliced through the room like a scalpel. My chest tightened. Had I heard her correctly? My wife, my loving, devoted wife, had just confessed to an affair in front of a room full of people, in the middle of her book launch. There were gasps. Some guests exchanged awkward glances, unsure if this was some elaborate marketing stunt. A few chuckled, waiting for the punchline. But I knew. The way she looked at me, just for a fraction of a second, before turning her gaze elsewhere. She didn't look remorseful. She looked victorious. And that's when I understood. This wasn't just a confession. It was a humiliation. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. This book, her big moment, this entire event, it had all been orchestrated for one purpose: to destroy me. I felt every eye in the room on me, waiting for a reaction. A part of me wanted to storm out, to scream, to flip the damn table and expose her for the liar she was. But instead, I just stood there, staring at her, the dull roar of my pulse pounding in my ears. I clenched my fists. Not here. Not yet. Lauren continued, her voice dripping with mock sorrow. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to write, but I believe in honesty. My readers deserve the truth. Lies. I had read her manuscript. Oh, yes, I had read it. Months ago. Back when she thought I wouldn't bother, that I wasn't smart enough to notice the inconsistencies, the carefully altered details, the subtle shifts in timeline. Her real-life affair wasn't just some emotional lapse in judgment. It was orchestrated. And she hadn't written a book to confess her sins. She had written it to rewrite history, to paint herself as the tragic heroine, and me as the villain who drove her into another man's arms. A murmur rippled through the crowd as people pieced together what this revelation meant. My wife, the celebrated author, had just turned me into a character in her story. But she had made one fatal mistake. She thought I was going to play along. I stepped forward, my voice calm, controlled. "Lauren," I said smoothly, drawing the attention of the crowd. "Since we're being honest tonight, maybe it's time we tell them the whole truth." She stiffened. Just slightly. But I caught it. A nervous chuckle escaped her lips. "Darling, I think we should." I cut her off. "You're right. The book is based on real events." I turned to the audience, my voice carrying through the room. "But what she didn't tell you is who it was really about." Lauren's smile faltered. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. A single tap, and a series of images appeared on the massive projector screen behind her. Images of her and her lover. Cozy, candlelit dinners. Hotel check-ins. Passionate, unguarded moments. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Lauren paled. You see, I continued, my voice laced with quiet amusement. Lauren is an incredible storyteller. So good, in fact, that she thought she could rewrite my reality. She wanted to turn herself into the misunderstood victim. But the truth? I paused, letting the tension stretch, watching her squirm under the weight of her own deception. The truth is, Lauren's book isn't just fiction. It's evidence. She sucked in a sharp breath. You base this novel on your affair? Then I suppose the publisher won't mind when I sue for defamation. I wonder, I tilted my head, pretending to ponder. What happens to a book when the real-life inspiration decides to take legal action? The publisher looked horrified. Lauren's face twisted in panic. Wait, she started, reaching for me. We can talk about this. I stepped back. No, you talked. You told your story. Now it's my turn. By the time the night was over, Lauren's book was the center of a scandal, but not the kind she had hoped for. The publisher pulled her contract. Lawsuits loomed. The literary world, once her kingdom, turned against her. And as for me, I walked away with my dignity intact, and a brand new book deal of my own. Lauren wanted to control the narrative, but she forgot. The best stories always have twists.